Hello and welcome back to Exeter City, where today we find out whether or not we're good enough to stay in the Champions League. We've got to overturn a 1-0 deficit. But first, Chelsea. I'll get you caught up. And it's a Chelsea that aren't having a particularly good season. That's them, down there, in 15th. And they're only 15th on goal difference. Same points as Aston Villa behind them. Realistically, as a table, they're not in any danger of being relegated here. They're on 31 points. Brighton behind them in 17th on 24, so even there, there's a big gap. But it's 10 points to the actual relegation spot. Realistically, relegation is Bournemouth, probably Norwich, and then either Leeds or Brighton. Whereas, we are now 5th and guaranteed some form of European football thanks to our Carabao Cup victory last time around. Besting the team directly ahead of us in the table, which is Everton, and they're 5 points clear at this stage, which is somewhat irritating. There were only 2 games played since then, and that was a 2-0 victory away at Brentford, who had a pretty decent season, all things considered, but they have done exactly as they have done in all the previous seasons they've been in the Premier League in this game. They've started very well and then faded right off, as you can see here, although slight recovery of late. And then I'm going to say remarkable comeback against Arsenal, because we scored twice after the 82nd minute. We scored in the 82nd minute and then Markovic in the 88th. Martinelli with 2 goals for Arsenal. Yeah, 2-0 down until the 80th minute. You do start to worry. I switched to the 3 at the back at half time, and I'm genuinely now considering making that the norm. But Chelsea aren't doing too well, so probably just stick with what we've got. We're not far away from youth intake day, I would imagine, on the 10th of March here. I'm not doing any youth poaching this year. I feel like in the Premier League now, with the 6 under 21 foreigner rule, youth poaching is probably actually inadvisable, just in case you get 2 or 3 duds in those 6. Then you've kind of lost your ability to sign developing players that you've missed, obviously, in those intakes elsewhere in Europe or South America. So, which is what happened this year, really. I'd already clocked in my 6, and a couple of them not quite so good. But for Chelsea, and with them in 15th, there's a genuine consideration to rotate here. I just realised I played Robert Sanchez last game out. That was my bad. Anyone on a heavy workload that isn't Stuart Smith, because there's no other options at left back at this point in time, is going to step out of this one, which does mean the entire front 3 change. Saunders, Pereira and Uribe. Carlos Eduardo's trying to get a new contract, and I might be able to do that with him now, actually. Yes, good. Problem solved with Carlos Eduardo. I tried to do it a little while ago, and I just didn't get enough patience on his side of things to get to the wage kind of respectable that I wanted. 66 grand we've just agreed. That'll do us. He's got 4 years. He's 24. I forget how young he is. Largely because Prieto came in around about the same time and he was 30. I think Eduardo was one of the league-generated players when we brought in Brazil, but he was brought in 20 or 21 rather than the sort of late 20s that pretty much everyone else was. As you can see there, only exists as of 2025, but a lot younger than all the other generated players pretty much. So, Avalos in goal, Smith, Morata, Ampadu, we're going to stick with them. Castillo, Mansley, Hesham, Szymanski behind Saunders, Pereira and Uribe. In fact, I think that particular experiment hasn't worked with the roaming playmaker there. I'd heard good things about the roaming playmaker role in pretty much every other formation, but it doesn't seem to quite work in this one. But yeah, Chelsea about to not have Europe again for what I think might be the 4th season in a row, if they don't make it this year. Those players, big wages, but gotta be getting annoyed by now, surely. Still got Pulisic. It's a Chelsea team that do play in a diamond, which isn't a bad formation in this year's game. It's effectively not that much dissimilar to what we play. All you do is flip a striker for a defence midfielder, and there you go, pretty much. And corner for Chelsea, Mount to take. Everson at the back post. Can't remember if he's just straight up new gen or another South American league gen. Szymanski on the corner though, and we know how good he is at these, although Havertz beats Morato to the ball. Could be a chance for them actually. Lemos being forced out wide. Morato actually right in the far line of that pull back. Mount to Everton. All the way back to their goalkeeper, Kovacevic, which is slightly confusing because there's another Kovacevic that is a defender that went to Bayern Munich, I think. Balogun, Hernandez. First time I saw him on the team sheet, I thought, oh, well, they must have loaned him to Chelsea. And then I realised he was the goalkeeper. James to Tonali. Tonali's the one I'm eyeing the most, but his wages are somewhat stupid, and Mount Avalos, good save. It's the problem, the Chelsea players are a little bit snookered, other than going to obviously another big team like PSG or Manchester City or Liverpool. Their options of destination are somewhat limited unless they want to take a major wage cut and come to either ourselves or even Everton at this point. Castillo in Mr. Hesham. Mansley. Castillo's in a bit of space on this right-hand side. Castillo puts the ball in. Kovacevic just claims easy as he likes, really. Appears to be quite tall, does Kovacevic, actually. And Balogun at Chelsea. Sorry, it's just registered as the Balogun's at Chelsea. Well, Avalos on a 7.5 up to this point has immediately undone all of that good work with this. We are second best here. Szymanski, although, like I say, I did rotate for this. I do just want to check who's with Morato on that near post. It is Pereira, who only has 14 jumping reach. I don't think there's anyone actually better than 14 other than Morato on this pitch, so I guess we'll just leave that as is. Uribe turns on the left back, who I think is Schlotterbeck, who isn't an actual left back. Saunders, close. We should be maybe trying to target Schlotterbeck a little bit more, because he is a centre back by trade, I think. Hernandez underneath that. Havertz finds James, finds Hernandez, and Lemos just seems to have a half a yard on our defenders at any given point in time. It's either his situational awareness is really good, or our defenders are just being sleepy today, as we do hit half time. And thus we switch to the three at the back. Avalos comes on for a very disappointing Pereira in this particular game. I thought he tried to capitalise on the fact that Eduardo's been a little bit out of form in the last couple of games, and he's been the one that I was hooked last time out. But no, Pereira did not put his stamp in this first 11, and we go three at the back to try and maybe neuter this three-pronged attack that they have. Hernandez just walks through the team. It's counting, but it's stupid. How? No amount of tactical decisions in the world would have saved that one. This is hilariously dumb. Not only does Castillo's tackle go straight to Hernandez, Mansley, the ball just hits Mansley here and goes straight back to Hernandez again. He might as well just played a 1-2 with him. And more importantly, in that moment when he does kind of lose possession, the two strikers continue their runs, as if they know psychically that Hernandez is going to get the ball back immediately. Sort it out, Sports Interactive. I'm bringing Markovic and Praza on. Mount. Well, the good news is, all of the nonsense that's happened since I switched formation is not to do with the formation. Apparently Prazer's pushed their defender. You know. Prazer, the physical presence that he is, has managed to push their central defender. A shirt pull or whatever, I'd understand, but a push? Prazer's probably the weakest player in our team, physically. Another chance for Chelsea. Counting again, but set piece, so again, nothing to do with the tactic. But of course, once again, a great save from Avalos there goes straight to their defender. Avalos still on a 7.3 here. Oh, I don't know what to think about that. Is that individual performances? Yeah, the first goal was sort of legitimate. The second, third and fourth were all nonsense. I suppose we hadn't had the nonsense game yet this year. Nice to get it out of the way before we do an actually important game. I'll be honest with you, exactly the same as last year. I'd actually prefer the Europa League at this stage of our progression, because it would allow me, at the very least, to rotate in the European games. It's happened in the Hanover save, where after 3 years in the Champions League, we didn't get Champions League because of Germany losing the coefficient to France. But, for the sake of our team, it's actually more beneficial. We get to rotate in Europe, go full strength in the league, until this point in the season, when it goes to knockouts, I imagine. But, yeah, Ampadu close to triggering a clause. Fernandez on the verge of wanting a contract, and backs away as soon as I talk to him. So what was the point? Oh, flip, I need to rest. I have genuinely never had this. It doesn't appear to be an unhappiness issue. It just appears to be a discipline issue. Yeah, the only thing he's concerned about is my treatment of Carlos Eduardo, which is nothing to do with him in the first place anyway, and I've given him the contract given him a contract now that he's been slightly more reasonable. I should say, on the original attempt, the last wage I attempted to give him that I failed on was 65 grand a week. So, you know, that extra £1,000 a week, that made all the difference. That's an unfortunate headline, good lord. Well, that's quite illuminating when it comes to the two goalkeepers. Avalos has the mentals and a bit of the physicals. Sanchez has all the technicals. Just because Avalos is still unhappy, I have finally just given him a new contract as well that he has agreed to. He's one of those people, a one-star player. He's the goalkeeper. There's the best goalkeeping option is first choice goalkeeper. I've been through this before. As soon as he agrees to contract, I'm changing him to first choice goalkeeper. Obviously, yeah. I had to offer him the contract as star player and then mug him over later. But for now, I think actually maybe the unhappiness could be factoring into that performance. He wasn't bad against Chelsea, he just let in 4 goals. 4 stupid goals. 3 stupid goals and 1 actual goal. But for this, we go as full strength as we can. Sanchez, Tiberio, Ampadu, Morato, Smith. I don't know why I did the back line the other way around this time. Markovic and Segovia. Hesham still returned to fitness, he's on the bench. Szymanski behind Fernandez, Eduardo and Prieto. No one, bar Smith of course, on a heavy workload. Leipzig have Muric in goal. I don't think we really mentioned that last time. So he must have developed okay. I think Bazanu is at a Premier League team. It's not a Southampton in game, but he is at another Premier League team. Say other Premier League team. Southampton are stuck in the Championship. They can't get back out of it. But yeah, Basney did make his way to another Premier League team, which bodes well for real life Southampton, I suppose, if football manager's got it right. I think that's Prieto who's just gone walkabout on the walkout. But it's Szymanski on a corner within 5 minutes. Carlos Eduardo is there, and it's Morato actually that's got on the end of it. They seem to have merged together in the corner. Taberio and Morato are in a spot of bother here, though, of course, because they are on yellow card warnings. Sorry, how the hell is that Morato's goal? Morato was facing the wrong way. Surely that was a Carlos Eduardo's goal. Anyway, all tied in the aggregate then, 1-1. Prieto over a free kick. We have to make sure we make our home advantage count. I say home advantage. We're still at Millwall. For now, it feels like we're at home, I think. We do actually move into our new stadium at the end of the season, do not forget, and that is a warning shot. Quite literally, almost. Szymanski over another corner. If we can make these count in this game, that'll be wonderful. Eduardo goes close. 1-1 overall does mean I get to shout encourage at this stage. Even though we're 1-0 up, it's 1-1, which means encourage should work, and it did indeed. Solo to Soboslai to Koksu. Adeyemi, absolutely butchering that name, probably. Gonçalo Estevez whips it all the way across to Guri, who doesn't get there ahead of Taberio. Taberio's booked, he's out of the next game. Taberio back in, Adeyemi's there. Yeah, Leipzig required Adeyemi in this one, not Sesko. Adeyemi went to... Did he go to Dortmund in real life? Ruggieri, Giron, Ruggieri again. I've had him before, I think. Sola, Ruggieri. Getting a lot of crosses in his Ruggieri, but that's not great, although Giron with an absolutely stupid... Well, today's episode's bringing out the nonsense animations, at least. Morato heads clear, and Prieto. Honestly, I think Morato has single-handedly sort of prevented probably about half a dozen corner goals this season, and scored half a dozen. Overall, bit dull, but we are back in this. Morale-wise, of course, 7 of the players on this pitch were not in that 4-0 loss, so they won't have been affected. Muric, where are you going with this, sunshine? Hoofed only as far as Morato, who does take it down really well. Ampadu, Markovic. Finds Tiberio, that was inch perfect past their number 7. Tiberio on the byline, whips it in. Carlos Eduardo's there. Prieto has been fouled, evidently, but not. Ampadu just casually slides tackles my striker from behind in the box, and it's not a foul at all. Prieto all the way to the back post. Fernandez, it's nonsense, but it's counting. And the balance is marginally restored in that respect from last game to this one. How does it avoid their defenders? Prieto here just hooks it over everyone. 3 of them go for him. Comes off the post, and it slide tackles back into the path of Carlos Eduardo. Like I say, at least I now feel somewhat better that the AI is capable of that nonsense as well. I wonder what the XG was on that. It's got to be less than 0.9 though, because we've only gone up to 1.2 total. They've got 1 back, that's not good. No away goals though, so this is all just even again on paper. I'll be honest, Sanchez didn't cover himself in glory there. It's a bit of a flap by Sanchez, who flaps the wrong way. If he flapped the other way, he'd been alright. Might have accidentally got it. And from kickoff, highlight, Szymanski Markovic, straight through to Prieto. He's in here. It's gone in. Oh, that's, well, I'm half tempted just to call this episode Football Manager, because, well, one match, it's all against you. The next, yeah. And Leipzig were back on level terms for all of about 30 seconds. Both fullbacks are now booked, but I don't have another left back at this point in time. When are they back? Despite the fact that Aaron Martin was injured first, I think he actually comes back second. Jerry Small is nearer to returning. Markovic Segovic is tired, so I think I'll just bring Hesham on. That's actually an improvement in terms of personnel. Szymanski's absolutely broken at this point in time, but I'll give him a rest in the Premier League games, not this one, because I need him for corners and set pieces and what have you. I need every advantage I can take at this point. The fact that Morato is very close to being out of the next game, I have to risk. Although, there's also 0 point taking Tiberio off. Even though he's on a yellow card, he's out of the next game because of yellow card accumulation anyway. And now we've gone past the point of game minutes for youth players, so it doesn't really matter who we bring on, because they're not going to get the rating. Although Szymanski really tired now. Baba Mansley, I can't have someone that tired on this pitch. 93, 94. Breathe a sigh of relief. 4-1 at the Den. Welcome to London. I'm just imagining all these teams from Europe arriving in England and going, right, where's Exeter? Wait, we're going to Millwall? I'm just breaking their understanding of England, really, at this point. Don't worry, next year you'll be going to actual Exeter. Fernandez booked in that, and Smith booked in that, but only Tiberio loses out in the next game, which actually, as things stand, is not too bad. Just one of them out at a time would be nice. Into complete 8-0 aggregate demolition of Levante. Mikel Arteta is out. But Mansley got injured at the end of that. Stubbed toe. All right, fair enough. And Eduardo with a much better performance in this game. Lovely. 8 million as well. Financially, not doing too badly. We are losing over the course of the year, but we are in the black. We've got £70 million more than our transfer budget is to begin with, and we haven't got the end of season money, of course, and any other money that comes from the Champions League going forward, because you still get money for being in the next round. I just don't get it until that round is completed. Speaking of which, draws are before the Burnley game. That reminds me, I had a look at a few of the league metrics to see how we stack up. We actually have the tallest squad on average. The shortest squad, Burnley. My health times change. So they're not playing Dyche ball anymore, that's for sure. Yeah, that's a disappointing. We weren't expecting much from this one. In fact, I'm pretty certain the one good player that we were advised about was the winger, but apparently not. Cotterill might become functional as a backup player. Needs physicals. Just because we got Wolves again in the FA Cup, which just bumped the Burnley game just because they played their FA Cup games a little bit later because of their opponents, I think. But still no new rivals based on games and all that. Because you can get competitive rivals, which at this point, Wolves definitely are. Right, view draw. Don't click the wrong button there. 8 teams left. It's Barcelona. Porto, actually surprised. Juventus. They beat Juventus. Inter Milan, Man United, Milan, AC Milan as well, PSG and Real Madrid. Now, obviously, there's one there that we absolutely want. The 2 Italian teams will probably be the next nicest. There's one of them. There goes Porto. Please, AC Milan. Oh, okay. That's probably the second best. I think Inter are better than AC at this point in the game. Not by much, though. Udinese 4th. Benevento 6th. I mean, that's the Zidane effect, isn't it? We highlighted this before. They actually acquired Umar Sole. He was on my radar just because he was within a price range that was acceptable, but he's ended up at Benevento. They've got decent facilities, actually, there. Not predicted too far down either to begin with, so actually, shout out to Benevento. Just quietly developing in their own regard. But yeah, Milan, the Milan 2nd and 3rd in Serie A as things stand, so we did get marginally the better of the two, I think, for us. And we will get Man United or Porto if we get past AC Milan. We're certainly the better side overall because, frankly, any of those 4 is horrific. But Man United did win the Premier League last year. This year, 2nd. And if we were to get past AC Milan, Man United in the league, we drew 2-2 away and 2-2 at home. There we are. Next time out will be both of those games. Wolves in the FA Cup quarterfinal. We've focused on the FA Cup before, and Wolves quite a lot. So, yeah, both Milan games next time around. We'll gloss over the Bournemouth game in between because, quite frankly, that should be a doddle. They're dead and buried already. But thank you for joining me, and also, just a note, this, in theory, will be the schedule going forward. Exeter on the Mondays and Thursdays that you've come to expect from that, and then the F1 Manager on the other remaining weekdays. I think that's the aim going forward. I hope you enjoyed the flurry of F1 Manager videos over the last couple of weeks. We'll just sort of tame things down a little bit on their releases. Won't be quite a fully daily series going forward, but week daily, that's the aim. Until next time, thank you for watching. Ta-ra.